Suzano rises. The stock jumped right after earnings files were released, and the company also announced a new share buyback program. Let's talk about that right after the disclaimer. This video is for informational and educational purposes only. It's not a stock recommendation. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Do not make investment decisions solely based on an amazing YouTube video. Do your own research or consult a certified professional before making any investment decisions. Well, to start with a quick overview of the scenario, we have a very solid operating results, even with the commodity price still under pressure. And the long-term thesis is very clear. Increase sales volume, reduce costs, and at some point, a recovery in commodity price will boost results. In slides from another Brazilian company, we can see key market drivers, such as the replacement of plastic with paper. The growth of e-commerce and delivery services also supports this trend. The expansion of the middle class in China and India also drives higher consumption of paper packaging. Companies in this sector here in Brazil, Klabin, Suzano, Irani, they leverage up to grow, and as their debt decreases, cash generation increases, creating more room for dividend payments. They already pay dividends, and Suzano just launched a share buyback program, so in the short term, dividends may be slightly lower, but in the long run, this improves shareholder returns significantly. We need to remember that earnings can look a bit messy because of foreign exchange effects. I explained this in another video. This doesn't affect cash, but it does affect accounting results. That's why it's not unusual for commodity companies to report net losses, but at some point, those losses tend to reverse into profits. To begin, I want to highlight sales volume in tons. Forget the money for a moment, because exchange rate creates noise. Looking at sales volume, we see a strong increase. It's worth noting that the Cerrado project is already up and running. Management expected around a 20% increase in production, and sales numbers came in line with that increase. We also saw a drop in the average selling price from $644 per ton in 2024 to $542 per ton in 2025. That has a significant impact on the company. When we look at adjusted EBITDA, we see a 10% year-over-year decline from 20 billion to 18 billion, even though the average exchange rate was higher, 5.39 in 2024 versus 5.59 in 2025. So pay attention, because today the dollar is around $5.2. What? 5.2 compared to Brazilian reais. That means there's a risk that upcoming results could come in slightly weaker. However, Suzano's operational performance remains very strong. The company is still delivering around 50% margin, even at this exchange rate. And if the dollar and pulp prices move higher, results could really improve. We won't focus too much on net income, because with commodity companies, net income isn't just the best metric due to exchange rate volatility. Just out of curiosity, the company reversed a 7 billion loss into a 13 billion profit. Okay, so the most important factor for commodity companies is low cost. No one controls the price of the commodity, so you need to be efficient and control costs. Suzano has the lowest pulp production cost in the world, and it's still declining. That's a major competitive advantage. Now, speaking about financial management, Suzano slightly increased leverage, mainly due to the Cerrado project. Today, it stands at around 3.2 net debt to EBITDA. As a rule of thumb, the financial market considers net debt to EBITDA below 3 times as healthy. So, Suzano is slightly above that ideal level. However, debt isn't just about the amount, it's about maturity. Suzano's debt profile is long-term, which means the company has time to generate more and more cash to repay it, or even refinance if future interest rates decline. It could replace a more expensive debt with a cheaper one. In addition, the company has enough cash to cover its short-term obligations. So debt is not a major concern for Suzano right now. One more detail. Leverage may increase slightly in the short term due to a joint venture with Kimberly-Clark. Is that how you pronounce it? They aim at creating higher value by entering the tissue paper market, hygiene products, the same market where Klabin already operates strongly. Another interesting point is that Suzano's debt is less impacted by high Brazilian interest rates. Since most of its debt is denominated in dollars, that means it's less exposed to Brazil's political and economic volatility. The 2026 guidance indicates a reduction in CapEx, capital expenditures, which should lead to a stronger cash generation. The only thing is that Suzano has a growth profile, so it wouldn't surprise me if management eventually decides to pursue another major project and increase investments again. And finally, I want to highlight the scheduled maintenance shutdowns. In summary, most of them will be completed by the fourth quarter of 2026. In other words, we can expect some volatility in results throughout the year, but by the end of the year, we could see stronger numbers, driven by higher production capacity, a potential recovery in pulp prices, and possibly a stronger dollar against the Brazilian real, especially since it's an election year. So yes, I expect volatility. My opportunity cash is ready for volatility. And that's it. Suzano's future looks promising. A potential upcycle in pulp prices, possible dollar mean reversion after recent declines, strong operational execution, falling costs, and rising production volume. For now, the focus will likely be on deleveraging and shareholder returns through buybacks. Personally, I don't own Suzano in my portfolio because my current allocation is already optimized, but fundamentally I like it. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Brazilian investor, literally from Brazil, with facts, not samba. Muito obrigado, um forte abraço e até a próxima.